What are some people's workshops like that you've seen then?
All sorts, from hospital theatres where the guy never does anything, he's frightened of messing it up, to complete pits. A barn with straw, wood, owls, droppings, the lot. You wouldn't believe.
That's extraordinary. It's supposed to be like the one you've got in the factory.
Yeah, that's excellent.
Is that?
Yeah.
Legs are a bit. There you go. Is that all right?
That's it. Flat table with the cloth hanging up and a light bulb to keep it dry. You could do with your 45-degree lines.
Right.
Yeah. Make those heavier. Felt pen. So you can see them through the cloth.
Okay, I can do that.
But yeah, excellent. Excellent. And you've got a warm box for the resin.
Resin is. Let me just make a note of that here. I've got my lines like that. I've got to sort out. Resin is in here.
Yeah, lovely. Again with a light bulb, just to keep it warm.
All right.
And what heat source do you have?
Heat source, we have these heaters, like this one.
Electric, yeah, great.
I was a bit worried, and we've got a temperature gauge and humidity gauge over here, but it's quite a big building, and I was worried you might get pockets that were different in different parts.
No, it's generally the same. It would help if you were to polythene over the beams to make a smaller volume. And you can always make a tent one end of the building if you want a hot box. Just drape polythene sheets down to keep one end.
So partition it up?
Yeah, so you keep one bit dry and hot, the other bit just can be ambient.
That's not on the line.
No, bit of shimming required.
Shimming? I don't dance. Oh, you mean a wedge? Oh,
just a wedge under the bench.
A wedge, so wedge under bench. Okay.
And then once you've got all the tables, all the corners level, if you dumb some Isopon, Bondo, to stick the bench to the floor, it won't move.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, but when you finish with it, you can just hammer and off it comes.
That's a brilliant idea. You see, that's the good thing about inspectors. They're not here just to make your life difficult. They're here to give you lots of hints and tips like that one, which is a top tip. So that's brilliant. So we're going to stick the bench to the floor. That'll be fun. So, tailplanes, I've taken them this far, but obviously I can't do any more until you've inspected them. So what is it you need to be looking at?
Right, I need to look at that rib. This is the outboard rib. I need to see it before we lose sight of it, before we bond it in. So the layup is slightly resin lean, but it's within tolerance. But what we do have is a void. If you see along there, we have a cavity between the layers. If you can just...
It's hollow, isn't it?
That won't do, I'm afraid.
Right.
The fix is to file that back and to expose the cavity. You scuff sand with 40 grit paper, 2 inches past, all the way around. Redo it with a flux, possibly even radiusing that plywood slightly more and putting a flux mixture in there and 2 bids. Everything's recoverable. Everything can be safe.
Is it? So, I mean, in terms of its strength, though, if I've taken this bit out and then repaired it, is this not going to be much weaker here, or is it not?
No, as long as you feather off, so you do a 2-inch overlap, no problem.
Right, so I've got a few things I need to do here, really. So, I mean, I feel a bit I've wasted your trip, really, because stupid
not
question.
A problem. No.
You can't sign my book, can you?
I can't until it's right, no.
Oh, dear. I made you a cup of tea. Do you want that, then?
Sounds good.
All right. Now, this little lot actually makes together some of the control system for the ailerons, and just so you understand kind of how it fits together, and I understand how it fits together, which is more important because I'm always got to do it. This bit will actually have the yoke, so the control stick, attached in here, and then there are a few bushes and bits and pieces, and then it'll eventually attach to this here, so that ultimately, when it's all glued together, which is what I've got to do, is that when you turn the stick that's up here like that, the whole tube turns. So that's the first assembly job. And really, it's a matter of just getting all the bits in the right order and then gluing them all together. So the next thing is just dry assembly. I've cut a couple of bits of plastic with holes in to act as shims. So there's a tiny little gap of just a few thou between each of the bits that I'm putting together. There's another bit of plastic on top. And then the whole lot just drops in there like that. It's much better to dry assemble it first because when you actually use the bonding agent, that's going to set really, really fast. So that all fits perfectly. So all remains is to just get a keying surface on the 2 bits that are being bonded together using a bit of grit paper, degrease it, and then we're ready for bonding. What I'm doing now is just mixing up this epoxy resin bonding agent, which is a highly technical business because you need 10 bits of yellow and 4 bits of blue, and you mix it all up and you get this sludgy, bluey, greeny stuff, which will go absolutely rock hard in 24 hours. And it may look like sludge in here, but actually it's highly technical stuff, this, because it contains bits of rubber and glass balls, which apparently mean that it can be incredibly strong without being brittle. And what you do with another mixing stick is you just smear all around the edge of this aluminium casting, around there, like that. Just get a nice even coat all over it. And when you've done that, just pop it into the yoke fork, like so, and it just slips in really nicely. And then the idea is that the 2 bits of aluminium bond absolutely rigidly to each other, but this block in the middle can just move. So that's all fine, so I can leave that now to set absolutely rigid. So it's a good opportunity for you to go back to Gloucester Airport to have a look at another of my rather scary flying lessons. You'll find a sick bag under your seat.
Today we're going to look at stalling.
stalling. I don't like the sound of that at all.
Scary stuff. It's nothing to do with the engine, as you might think. It's the airframe stalling, or the aerofoil actually stalling. So the exercise is to learn to recognise and recover from both an incipient and fully developed stall with minimum height loss.
I've now got butterflies in my stomach even thinking about it.
Good. No, don't worry, it's fine.
Because we're going to be slowing down, aren't we?
Yeah. So the pre-stall then are a high nose attitude, which you'd expect because we're trying to raise the nose to maintain the altitude. We have less effective controls, or sloppy controls, low engine noise, low decaying airspeed, and then we'll get the pre-stall stall warner. And then we get some light buffet, some sort of vol-au-vents and that sort of thing.
How can you be joking at a time like this? I'm about to fall out of the sky and you're talking about vol-au-vents. Slowly reduce power.
Continue to raise the nose.
Raise the nose.
And then attempt to maintain our
airspeed. Altitude, sorry. So trying to maintain altitude. Now got decreasing engine noise, decreasing airspeed.
less effective controls.
Less effective controls.
By looking over the nose, prevent that yaw. Absolutely no use of the aileron, and keep pedalling. So keep pulling, keep pulling, keep pulling, keep pulling. We get some light buffet there, and we're expecting the stall warner quite imminently. So keep raising the nose, keep raising the nose, keep raising, and recover. So
recover and down.
Lower the nose, positively lower the nose. Good.
Now we've got the signs going away. We've got increasing airspeed. We've got still decreasing. We'll go to obviously decreasing altitude to increase our speed. Controls are becoming more positive. Engine noise is louder.
Good. From the vol-au-vents, we're going to move on, and we're going to move on to heavier buffet, chicken wings, that sort of thing, pork pie with the egg in the middle. Now this is the scary bit, the wing drop here. Purely and simply, the aircraft is, because it's sort of finely balanced here at the stall, it doesn't like being there, and if one air correction, one wing gets greater lift than the other, it will do this.
Right.
Now, it's not that that's the problem, it's the associated yaw. Because the simple equation is that stall, which we've got, plus yaw equals spin, auto-rotation to the ground. The sensation we'll get as we enter through the incipient stages, high nose attitude, sloppy controls all going quiet, into the fully developed stall, is that we'll get the aircraft, once it starts nodding, you'll actually feel this. It feels as if somebody's got the aeroplane and rocking it gently as it stalls, recovers itself, but you're holding it back, so it stalls, recovers itself, That's what's actually happening. And as long as you keep the ailerons neutral and prevent any yaw with the rudder, they'll be fine.
Leveling off, carb heat on, power down, no use of the ailerons, put nose up to try and maintain airspeed, to make altitude correction. And I've got nose up, decreasing airspeed, decreasing engine sound. Still pulling back to try and maintain altitude. Got the warning. Ignore that.
Keep pulling, Mark. All the way back.
All the way back.
There it
So
goes.
we've got the buffeting. And then drop the nose to recover. And then power.
So recovery goes on.
That's
Let's
right.
move back to the cruise. Very good.
Oh,
Okay, I have control.
you have control. It's nice to have done it. Oh no!
Where are we then?
Oh God, where are we? So we're not getting any bearings at all. We're heading, I would say over there.
Start bringing some of that power back now. Right, start around at approximately 20 feet. To fly the aircraft level on the runway, and then hold it there.
The basics are becoming more familiar, so definitely freeing up time to be able to think about the other things you've got to do. But I can't get over how much more complicated it is flying than I ever thought it would be. There is so much to think about. But every little step you make just feels fantastic, because you've just made a little bit more progress. But I cannot imagine possibly trying to do this solo without my good friend Carl next to me. Welcome back to A Plane is Born. I'm building my own plane bit by bit, and this is the bit that I've most recently made. I've just got to pull out this plastic shim that allowed me to assemble this together. And yeah, look, got a little bit of play there in that wood, and it turns beautifully, but this lot's all rigid. So I've got that bit made, which is fantastic. That was easy, wasn't it? But just look down the bench, because now I've got to put all this lot together, which is the tailplane and the aileron control systems. So, of course, you look in the manual, don't you? Yes, you do. And you find this, which is wonderful, because we can identify down here, the bit I've just made is there, look. So the next job is to actually attach all these other bits and pieces on the bench to make this look. That looks okay. You flip the page and it begins to look a little bit more complicated, and you turn the page again and it looks even more complicated. So by this point you're probably feeling a little bit distressed, but fear not, because building a plane is much easier than you might think. It's child's play. Even a woman could do it. Well, at least that's what Neville at the factory told me. That goes in there like that. Now it's time to attach the aileron control cross link rod to the CS08 aileron control crank. That's the control crank. Pete, mate, have you got the cross link? That's the job. So it goes on the inboard hole. Inboard, which means towards the middle.
Yeah.
Right, and on the back of it like that. It should slot in.
Yep.
We'll have a nut on the back. Now we are swinging. This quick connect bracket fits on here like that. You have to remember that this plane can have its wings taken off at will and in seconds, and that means that all the connections for controls and everything into the wings have to be of a quick connect basis, because you can get ready for flight in a matter of minutes. This little push rod goes on there like that. That bolt through there. So that all fits brilliantly. And what happens is when the main crank moves, it moves this plate here, and when the wing's attached, there's another plate that abuts it absolutely hard like that. So when this one turns, so does the one that's connected to everything in the wing. That is a fantastic piece of engineering. While I fiddle around up here, time for you to meet another of my plane building chums.
It's actually designed by a chap called Harris Woods, hence the name Woody Pusher, and the engine on the back pushes it along. Harris Woods is an American, and this one was actually built in America, and as far as I know, it's the only one in Europe. The aircraft is loosely based on a Curtiss Wright Jr. It's a 1929 design, and it's vintage. It's sort of a vintage appeal to me. I like vintage aeroplanes. If I could afford a really vintage aeroplane, I'd have one, so this is the next best thing really. And I love open cockpit flying as well. A set of plans, for example, something like this may cost around about $500. And then it will tell you what materials to buy, but you actually do everything yourself. Whereas when you buy a kit, most of the structural stuff is usually done, and they will supply you with all the materials. The engine's a 85 horsepower, which means I can cruise about 75 knots. The only real difference is when you throttle back, the nose comes up rather than goes down, and when you power on, the nose goes down rather than, which is different to the tractors, but that is the only real difference to any other conventional trail dragger. I'm actually based on a farm strip in Devon. A lot of PFA aircraft will be found on farm strip rather than conventional airports. 2 reasons. Again, it brings down the costs, and no landing fees. It's all uncontrolled, no radio. Come and go as you please, really. Just be aware of the name.